What if your favorite artist was being hunted not by the police, but by the shadows of the music industry itself? This is the chilling true story of how Kid Cudi found himself caught in a silent war with hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. From secret break-ins to car bombings, courtroom confessions, and cryptic lyrics, this story unravels like a cinematic thriller. And trust me, by the end, you'll never hear his music the same way again. Welcome to the dark side of fame, where silence is survival and truth burns brighter than fire. Let's begin. The cigarette burned like a signal flare in the rain, a thin column of smoke unraveling skyward, defiant, trembling, and already fading. Scott Mescudi, known to most as Kid Cudi, stood on the courthouse steps beneath a black umbrella, held not by his own hand, but by a silent federal guard. The storm drummed a rhythm on the concrete, as if the world itself had gone into mourning. His leather jacket clung to him like armor soaked through his jeans darkened with water. But it wasn't the weather that chilled him. It was the weight of memory, the scent of ash still clinging to his skin. A witness, they called him. But to what fire betrayal? The moment a friend became a ghost, he dropped the cigarette heel, crushing it into the wet stone, and took a breath like a man entering combat. The courthouse doors loomed ahead, heavy, indifferent. He didn't look back. No one ever looks back at the beginning of an end. Inside, the fluorescent lights stripped the world of color. He walked slowly down the aisle of the courtroom, the eyes of strangers slicing into him, pressed jurors, officials. He did not return their gaze. The chair where he would sit already felt like a confession. He sat anyway. The silence felt rigged. The prosecutor's voice broke the hush clean and practiced. "Mr. Mescudi, do you remember the morning Cassie called you?" The memory came not in words, but in pulse, in the tremor of dawn. "Yes," he said. It was still dark, maybe around 6. She sounded scared more than that. She said he knew. And what did she ask you? She wanted me to pick her up. He paused. She said Sean Combs found out about us. The courtroom shifted like it had inhaled. He didn't glance at Combs. He didn't need to. He could feel him heavy, unmoving like gravity. The rain had been the same that morning, cold, unrelenting. When he reached Cassie, she was standing beneath a flickering streetlight hood, drawn tight arms wrapped around herself like she was holding in the fear. He didn't speak. She didn't look at him until she was inside the car. Her voice was broken glass. He knows. He's losing it. They drove in silence for blocks. When she finally spoke again, it was barely above a whisper. "I gave him your address," he asked. I didn't know what else to do. Something inside him shifted, then not anger, something deeper, a knowing. At the Sunset Marquee, they found refuge in anonymity. The lobby smelled of old money and citrus. He'd always liked the place, low light, quiet corridors. He thought it might be safe. He was wrong. The call came not long after. Capricorn Clark, Cassie's friend, Combs' former assistant. Her voice trembled through the speaker like a wire fraying mid-transmission. "They're in your house," she said. "I didn't want to go. They made me. I'm outside in the car. They're inside." He didn't ask who. He didn't need to. He was already moving. He drove like the storm was behind him instead of above. The windshield wipers beat a futile rhythm. The city blurred. He called Combs. It rang once, then again. "Then what's up?" The voice was too calm. "Are you in my house?" he asked. His hands were shaking on the wheel. "I just want to talk," Combs said. "I'm here." No threats, no shouting. Just a voice wrapped in silk. Cudi hung up. The silence in the car felt heavier than noise. He reached the house and everything looked untouched. The driveway glistened. The windows stared back like dead eyes. But something was wrong. He felt it first in his stomach. Inside, the smell hit him first. Cologne that wasn't his. He turned on the lights. Nothing broken, nothing taken. But the Christmas gifts under the tree luxury boxes with Chanel ribbon had been opened. Not stolen, just tampered with. A gesture, not a robbery. A message I was here. Then the barking. Not from the hallway where his dog usually greeted him, but muffled, panicked. He found the dog locked in the bathroom, tail between legs, eyes wide, with something beyond fear. Trauma. Something primal. That's when he called the police. Back into the hotel room, Cassie hadn't stopped pacing. What did he do, she asked. Her eyes were rimmed red. What did he say? He was calm, Cudi said. Too calm. I don't know what he's capable of anymore. Neither did he. Not then. He left out the part about the way Combs said it. Like it was a game. Like Cudi was a piece he had moved from one square to another. The kind of tone that says, I don't lose. I reset the board. Later, Cudi would fly with Cassie to Connecticut. Her family had invited him in like he belonged. For a few days, it felt like breathing air instead of smoke. She laughed with her siblings. Her mother made coffee in the mornings. He almost forgot. Almost. But the messages kept coming. From Combs. Not every day. Just enough. Oh, we should talk, they said. Let's clear this up. And when Cudi didn't respond, I just want to understand. He finally replied once. You broke into my house. You messed with my dog. I don't want to talk to you. No answer came back. Not then. The courtroom was silent again. The jurors watched him like statues. The prosecutor asked, Why did you feel unsafe, Mr. Cudi? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, Because I wasn't just being followed. I was being studied. And somewhere behind him, a pen scratched the sound of denial onto a yellow legal pad. The night draped Los Angeles like a heavy curtain muffling sound, hiding movement. Cudi sat in his Porsche 911 Cabriolet engine, humming like a pulse he could barely feel. The roof was soft-top fabric. He'd always liked the way it folded back like a secret, but now it felt like a weakness, something thin and vulnerable between him and the sky. He had one hand on the wheel, the other gripping his phone, like it might tell him what to do. His knuckles were white. Capricorn's voice still echoed in his mind. They're in your house, not were, are. Present tense. And she hadn't said his name. She'd spoken to Cassie, who now sat silent beside him in the car, knees drawn up, trembling. He wanted to comfort her, to reach across and hold her hand, but his own hands wouldn't stop shaking. He dialed. The number rang once, twice. Then that same smooth voice answered. I'm here, Combs said. Not what's going on. Not why are you calling, just the confirmation, like he was expecting it. Cudi's voice cracked before it could harden. Are you in my house? I just want to talk, Combs said again, like the words were gospel. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. Cudi's mouth was dry. I'm coming. I'll be here. Combs replied, and the call ended with the soft finality of a blade sliding back into a sheath. He drove. The freeway was half empty, the streetlights bleeding through raindrops on the windshield. He barely noticed the music playing some old instrumental on low volume, a beat he once made, and now hollow. He wasn't angry anymore, not really. What replaced it was something worse, clarity. A cruel kind of focus, the kind you get before impact. When he arrived, the house greeted him with indifference. The door was closed. No shattered glass, no tire marks. The porch lights glowed faintly, casting shadows in all the wrong places. He stepped inside. The air was too still. His own footsteps echoed like they didn't belong to him. Everything looked untouched. Except it wasn't. He saw the Christmas gifts. First Chanel boxes torn open with surgical precision. Not stolen, not disturbed. Just opened as if whoever had been here wanted him to know that they could have taken everything but chose not to. A reminder, you're not safe. He stood there for a moment staring. The silence began to build in his ears until a soft whimper. He turned. The bathroom door was closed. Charlie. His voice cracked. He opened the door slowly. The dog bolted out, skidding across the wood floor, eyes wide with terror. Charlie had always been a calm dog, friendly, lazy even. But now he cowered behind furniture tail between his legs, emitting a low, constant growl. Cudi dropped to his knees, trying to soothe him, but the dog flinched at every movement. "What did they do to you?" he whispered. The question wasn't meant for the dog. The police came and went. They took a report. They nodded sympathetically. One officer said, "Doesn't seem like a break-in." Nothing was taken. Cudi didn't argue. He didn't bother explaining that sometimes the worst crimes leave no fingerprints, just fear. Back at the hotel, Cassie was curled up on the bed, still wearing her coat. She looked small distant. When he told her what happened, she didn't cry. She just nodded slowly, as if she'd expected it all along. "He's going to escalate," she said. "He always does." "How long?" Cudi asked. "How long is he?" "Too long," she said. "But it's over, I swear." That night, they didn't sleep. They lay side by side, staring at the ceiling. Her hand found his at one point, but neither of them spoke. Outside, the rain kept falling. The next day, they left for Connecticut. Cassie said her mother wanted to see her. Cudi didn't want her to go alone. Maybe he wanted to see what a real family looked like, something warm, safe-rooted. They stayed in a modest house with a fireplace and a porch swing. Her younger brother played video games late into the night. Her mother cooked soup from scratch. It was normal. It was strange. Cassie laughed more there. She smiled in photographs. But every time her phone buzzed, a shadow passed over her face. The texts were from Combs. Sometimes they were vague. "Let's talk?" Sometimes direct. "We need to clear the air?" Cudi didn't reply. Not at first, but after the third day, when Charlie flinched from a closed closet door and Cassie froze when a car backfired outside, he typed a single message. "You broke into my house. You messed with my dog. I don't want to talk to you." He pressed send. No response came, not immediately, but peace never lasts. On January 9th at 6:32 a.m., his phone rang. It was his dog sitter. "Your car," she whispered. "It's on fire." He was staying with a friend 45 minutes away. The drive felt longer. He didn't even remember red lights. When he pulled into his driveway, the stench hit him. First burnt rubber smoke, something chemical. The Porsche was still smoldering. The roof was shredded, gaping like a wound. The driver's seat was blackened. The flames hadn't consumed the whole vehicle, but what they left behind was worse, a ghost of what used to be. Beside the car lay a broken bottle charred at the neck. He knew what it was, even before the officers confirmed it. A Molotov cocktail. The police asked questions. He answered mechanically. He knew the drill now. "No, I didn't see anyone. No, I don't know who did it. Yes, it's the second time." They handed him a case number. They didn't hand him safety. Later, he would sit at the Soho house across from Combs and ask him the question one last time. "What are you going to do about my car?" But that moment hadn't come yet. Not then. All he had now was the image of the flames reflecting off broken glass, and the knowledge that even if he survived this, he would never be the same. The walls were made of glass, but it felt like a cage. Kid Cudi stepped into the private meeting room at Soho House and instantly caught the scent of cedarwood, expensive silence, and something colder, expectation. The room was designed to impress warm, wood minimalist decor, one massive window stretching from floor to ceiling, offering a view of a city that never looked more distant. And there he was. Sean Diddy Combs stood at the far end of the room, hands clasped behind his back eyes, fixed on the horizon beyond the glass. He didn't turn when Cudi entered, didn't move. Just stood there, back straight, the posture of someone waiting for a confession or a sentence. He looked like a Marvel supervillain. Cudi paused for a beat. The only sound was his own breath, shallow and steady. Then the soft shuffle of his shoes on the hardwood floor. He walked in every step, echoing like a countdown. The distance between them closed too quickly. And still Diddy didn't turn. Cudi spoke first. "You wanted to talk?" Diddy's voice was calm, too calm. "Yeah." He turned slowly, hands still behind his back, face unreadable. "Have a seat." There were 2 armchairs positioned like a quiet duel. Cudi sat. Diddy followed. They faced each other now. No table between them, no barrier. Just air thick with history. "You want something to drink?" Diddy asked. His tone was casual, like they were in a recording studio discussing a verse. "Water, I'm good." Diddy nodded, then added, "You sure you look dry?" Cudi's eyes narrowed. "I said I'm good. All right." Diddy leaned back his frame, relaxed his smile tight. "So, you and Cassie." Cudi didn't flinch. "She told me you two were done. She said you weren't in her life anymore. She told you that." Diddy echoed, as if tasting the words. "And you believed her. She didn't lie. She didn't tell the whole truth." Diddy replied, then paused. "You see, we were close. Real close. You were my guy, and she was mine. You knew that." Cudi felt the weight behind the words, the accusation wearing a silk robe. "I didn't know she was still seeing you." Diddy stared at him. "Does it matter? You went there anyway." Silence settled between them. Cudi heard it roar in his ears. He thought about the house, the gifts, the dog, the car, the fire. "I didn't come here to debate Cassie," he said. "I came here because my car was firebombed." Diddy tilted his head slightly. "That's so." Cudi leaned forward. "And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about." Diddy didn't blink. "That's a hell of an accusation." "I'm not accusing," Cudi said quietly. "I'm remembering." For a moment, neither man moved. Then Diddy exhaled, slow and deliberate. "Look, I didn't do that. I don't know who did. Maybe someone's trying to stir shit up. Maybe you've made some enemies." "Enemies don't unwrap my Christmas presents," Cudi shot back. "They don't move my security cameras. They don't lock my dog in a room." That was personal. Diddy shrugged. "You think I have time to sneak around in your house like some cartoon villain?" Cudi's eyes flashed. "You think I'm scared to say it?" "You should be," Diddy said, voice low, almost tender. "People get real brave until they realize how this world really works." Cudi stood. Diddy stood too. They were close now. Inches. Breath to breath. Cudi extended his hand. Diddy took it slow, deliberate squeezing, just enough to remind him of power. Cudi didn't let go. He looked him dead in the eyes. "What are you going to do about my car?" Diddy's stare went flat. "I don't know what you're talking about." Cudi held the stare for a second longer, then let go. The moment cracked. Diddy's voice followed like a shadow. "Wait, I thought we were cool. Is there a problem? You said you didn't burn my car." "That's your word?" Diddy smiled without warmth. "Yeah. Then that's it." He turned to leave. His steps felt heavier now, not from fear but from the knowledge that nothing was over. This wasn't closure. This was a stalemate. Behind him, the window still showed the city in all its distant glow. But inside that room, no light could soften the truth that had passed in silence. Later, he wouldn't remember the drive home, only the feeling of scrubbing his hands in the sink, like something had stained them. Like the air itself had gotten under his skin. He didn't sleep that night. Neither did Charlie. The fire didn't roar. It whispered. At 6:32 in the morning, his phone rang. A vibration against the wood nightstand. A sound that didn't belong in sleep. He reached for it with the dull instincts of someone not yet awake. The voice on the other end was trembling. "Your car," she said. "Scott, your car is on fire." His feet hit the floor before he even responded. He was 45 minutes away. The dog sitter had stayed overnight at his place. Charlie barked once in the background. There was smoke. He could hear it, smell it almost through the phone. The road back to his house wasn't the same as the one he'd driven the night of the break-in. That night, he was fueled by confusion, by the kind of fear you still think you can reason with. This time, the fear had structure. It had chosen a form, flame. When he pulled into the driveway, the sun was barely rising. Pale gray light washed over everything, but the darkness clung to the wreckage like soot. The Porsche was hunched like a wounded animal, its soft top peeled open like a can melted in places, blackened in others. The driver's seat was scorched, the leather puckered like burned skin. Smoke still curled up from the edges like the aftermath of a scream. He stepped closer. The smell hit him first. Not just fire chemicals, accelerant. He knew it immediately. The bottle lay a few feet from the passenger side, neck cracked, blackened rag still partially visible. A Molotov cocktail. His stomach twisted. That same tightness from before. But this time no room for doubt. This wasn't a message. It was a war cry. He heard footsteps and turned to see two officers approaching from behind a police car. One of them was young, barely older than a college intern, trying too hard not to look impressed by who he was. The other was older, detached. "Mr. Cudi," the older one asked. He nodded, eyes still locked on the car. "Did you see anyone?" the officer asked. "No." "Do you know anyone who might have done this?" He almost laughed. But what came out instead was a silence that said too much. "No," he finally said. "Not for sure." They jotted things down, photographed everything, took the bottle, promised an investigation. But their faces already said what he knew. There were no witnesses, no camera footage, no leads, only the flames and the smoke and the silence that followed. When they left, he stood in front of the car alone. He remembered driving it up Mulholland top down. Wind in his face, music blaring something unreleased. A freedom he thought would last. Now it looked like a corpse. He drove back in a rental, windows shut, hands clenched around the steering wheel. The radio was off. He couldn't listen to music. Not that day. Cassie met him at the door of the hotel, eyes wide, lips parted like a question she. He was too afraid to ask. He didn't speak. He just showed her a picture. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Why?" she whispered. "'Cause I told him no," Cudi replied. "Because I walked away." She turned from him, then stepped back inside. He heard her crying behind the wall. Soft, then sharper, like her ribs were cracking. That night, he sat on the hotel balcony, hoodie drawn over his head, looking out at nothing. Charlie sat beside him, head on his lap, the only steady thing in a world that felt like it had turned upside down. The stars were faint. LA never gave you darkness, not really. Just a haze of half-light that made everything look like it was trying to disappear. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through old texts from Diddy. "We should talk. Let's clear the air." He read them like riddles now, warnings disguised as olive branches. He typed out a message, then deleted it, then typed another. "We need to meet." The reply came quickly. "We're Soho House. When tomorrow? Noon." He didn't tell Cassie. He didn't tell anyone. He needed to look in the man's eyes one last time. Needed to understand if this was just paranoia or prophecy. That night, he barely slept. His dreams were fragmented images, a burning car, a locked bathroom door, a pair of calm eyes that never blinked. The next morning, he dressed in silence. Dark clothes, no jewelry, no pretense. He brushed Charlie behind the ears before leaving, unsure if he would come back changed or not at all. He drove slowly. Traffic didn't matter. Time didn't matter. Only the truth, or what passed for it. Because if a man like Diddy could walk into your house, touch your life, light your world on fire, and still smile like nothing happened, then what did it mean to be safe? What did it mean to survive? There are rooms that swallow your voice. Courtrooms especially are built like that. Tall ceilings, heavy wood, silence curated like a weapon. When Kid Cudi stepped back into the witness stand, it wasn't his feet that trembled. It was the knowledge that every word he spoke would echo far beyond these walls. He adjusted the microphone, cleared his throat. The lights felt hotter today, the eyes more precise. The prosecutor stood, her voice steady, rehearsed. "Mr. Cudi, can you walk us through what happened on January 9th, 2012? He inhaled slowly, let it out through his nose. "My car was set on fire." A murmur fluttered through the gallery like moths panicking toward flame. The judge raised a brow but said nothing. "And what did you find at the scene?" she asked. He hesitated. "My Porsche was totaled. The top had been cut open. A Molotov cocktail had been thrown inside. The driver's seat was scorched. This burned through. Did you see the object? Yes, he said. It was still there. A glass bottle charred with cloth, partly melted. And what was your reaction? He leaned closer to the mic. What the fuck? There was a pause. The judge didn't admonish him. Perhaps even he understood that sometimes profanity was more honest than formality. The jurors shifted in their seats. Some took notes. Others watched him without blinking. Did you think someone specific was behind it? Objection. The defense attorney shot to his feet. Sustained, the judge said. Jury will disregard the witness's last implication. But the words had already sunk in. The air had changed. You couldn't erase a suspicion once it was spoken out loud. The prosecutor nodded, switching angles. After the fire, did you see Mr. Combs? Yes, Cudi said. I reached out. I asked to meet. We agreed on Soho House. She raised an eyebrow. Why did you initiate the meeting? Because it had gone too far, he replied. I didn't want to guess anymore. I needed to see him. I needed to ask him straight. And did you? Yes, I asked him. What are you going to do about my car while we were shaking hands? And his response. Cudi looked down for a moment, as if remembering hurt. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. She took a step back. Was that the end of it? He nodded. Until a few years later. We crossed paths again. He was with his daughter. He pulled me aside. Said I just want to apologize for everything. All that bullshit. Did you accept the apology? I didn't have a choice, Cudi said. It wasn't about forgiveness. It was about finally breathing again. When the prosecutor sat down, the silence was brittle. Then the defense rose. Brian Steele didn't posture. He didn't perform. He approached like a surgeon preparing for a slow incision. Mr. Mescudi, he began. You and Miss Ventura Cassie, how long had you been seeing each other before this? Fire incident? Around a year, Cudi said. And during that time, you had no idea she was still romantically involved with Mr. Combs? No, Cudi replied. Steele's eyes narrowed. So when she told you they were done, you believed her? Yes, she played you, didn't she? A flash of something flickered in Cudi's face. Pain, maybe. Anger tightly folded. I guess so. Steele walked slowly. She was convincing. Intimate. You spent a lot of time together. Alone. Yes. So it would be fair to say if anyone had motive for strong emotional reaction, it might be Mr. Combs. Objection. The prosecutor's voice cut in. The judge waved it away. Rephrase. Steele nodded. Would it be surprising to you if Mr. Combs felt betrayed? Cudi looked him dead in the eyes. Probably. But I didn't light the car on fire. A few jurors blinked. One wrote furiously. Steele opened a manila folder. Let's talk about evidence. Did you see Mr. Combs at your house the night of the alleged break-in? No. Did anyone know? Were there security cameras? There were. They were turned. Turned, Steele repeated, as if tasting the word. They had been repositioned intentionally. But there's no footage. No. No fingerprints. No. Steele closed the folder. So to be clear, no one saw Mr. Combs. There was no surveillance. No evidence tying him to the scene. Correct, that's correct. And yet, here you are. Cudi didn't respond. The silence was the answer. Steele circled back. Is it true, Mr. Mescudi, that you released several songs after these events? Songs filled with suggestive lyrics. Cudi stiffened. Let me read one for you, Steele continued. Burn, baby, burn. I just want to watch it burn. That's your lyric, yes. Sounds like a threat. It's art, Cudi said flatly. Is it about Mr. Combs? No. But the timing? Interesting. No. Cudi leaned forward. You want to talk about timing? Let's talk about the night someone set my car on fire. Let's talk about the call that came before dawn. Let's talk about walking into a house that should have been safe and finding silence that screamed. Steele didn't flinch, but not proof. No, Cudi admitted. Not proof. Just a pattern. When the defense finally stepped back, the room exhaled. But something lingered in the air. Not just doubt, not just sympathy, something else. Judgment. Outside the courtroom, social media had already begun its own trial. Screens filled with hashtags, posts labeling him a snitch, a rat, a traitor. Young Thug tweeted, then deleted, "Damn, Cudi a rat, LOL." Others chimed in. Defenders, detractors, fans dissecting lyrics like confessions. In the chaos, the truth got smaller, thinner, quieter. But in that courtroom, Cudi didn't blink. Because if telling the truth made him a target, then he'd rather be aimed at than disappear. Art was supposed to save him. That had always been the truth. The studio was sanctuary. Lyrics were confession. Beats were blood. For years, Kid Cudi had poured his soul into sound, every track a map of emotion, every album a time capsule. But now, they were digging through those maps like they were evidence. Like they were looking for guilt hiding between the bass lines. It started with whispers online. Reddit threads, blog posts, fans turned detectives. Then came the headlines. Is Kid Cudi's music a diary of Diddy's crimes? Burn, baby burn, hidden meanings in the fire. The song in question had been released in 2023, a full decade after the fire. But time, it seemed, didn't matter anymore. The lyrics burned too bright to be ignored. Burn, baby, burn. I just want to watch it burn. They said it was metaphor. They said it was revenge. They said it was a message sent too late, wrapped in melody. Cudi said nothing, because some songs were not explanations. They were exorcisms. They pulled up the album cover from 2013 Indigood. A framed explosion, red, raw, chaotic. Some called it foreshadowing. Others called it confession. And then the tweet resurfaced, March 2012, just months after the fire. I hope they understand that I really understand that they don't understand. At the time, no one had known. About the car, about the dog, about the silent war waged in the shadows. But now, every word looked different. Now people read between every line, like the truth had been hidden in plain sight. They found another song, Dennis Hooked Me Up with Some of That Whiskey. The release date lined up too perfectly. The lyrics even more so. They really want me dead. Not my fault I'm intriguing. It didn't help that he had tweeted something cryptic back then, deleted shortly after, "Do y'all want to know whose girl found me intriguing?" He later claimed he was hacked. But the internet never forgets. In court, the prosecutor didn't bring up the music. Not officially. But outside in the court of public opinion, it was everywhere. Every lyric dissected, every beat turned into a breadcrumb trail. And if that wasn't enough, someone dug up a 2012 track by Red Cafe, a song that featured Diddy himself. One line hit too hard to ignore. "I'm in my own world," spaced out Kid Cudi. A dig, a threat, a coincidence. No one could say for sure, but it stuck. Cudi tried not to read the comments, but he did. He's soft. Why'd he run to the cops? Diddy made him. Now he wants sympathy. Snitches get stitches. One night, he sat alone in the studio, the lights low, fingers hovering over the keyboard, trying to create. But the silence was thick. Not the comforting kind, the accusing kind. He remembered the early days before fame, before fire. Just a kid from Cleveland with headphones too big for his head and dreams too big for his neighborhood. He didn't want to be a witness. He wanted to be a voice. But somewhere along the way, the voice had become evidence. He thought of Cassie, the way she'd curled into herself on the hotel bed, the bruise on her back she never talked about, the way she'd looked at him when he showed her the picture of his burned car, not surprised. Just tired. He thought of Diddy's face, that look in the Soho house. Cold, calm, calculating, offering water like a priest before confession. He thought of the dog Charlie, how he still trembled at thunder, how he'd never go near closed doors anymore. And he thought of the moment the judge asked why he decided to testify. His answer had been simple. Because I still hear the fire. Because the fire wasn't just in the car. It was in the silence. In the studios where no one asked questions. In the parties where everyone knew but no one spoke. In the lyrics no one dared to write. Until now. He knew what they were saying, that he should have stayed quiet. That music was enough. That he betrayed the code, the unspoken one that ruled the industry. What good was a code that let monsters sleep soundly? He opened his laptop, started a new file, a new beat, slow, low, like footsteps in a dark hallway. Then words, not poetry, not metaphor, just truth. They tried to burn me, but they forgot ashes still breathe. He sat back, let the words play. His voice echoed through the speakers, raw and trembling. Maybe it wouldn't chart. Maybe it wouldn't sell. But it was real. And after everything, that was enough. The night had its own voice. It breathed through the cracks in the sidewalk, whispered through the empty intersections of Los Angeles, and crawled through the gaps between each heartbeat. Kid Cudi drove through it like a ghost, retracing his last living steps. It was the night after Capricorn called, after Cassie cried in the dark, after the phone call with Combs when he said so simply, "I'm here," like it was a reunion, like it was a favor. He didn't remember putting on his jacket or finding his keys, only that his hands were trembling when he opened the car door, and that his reflection in the window looked older than it had that morning. Not from age, from knowledge. The engine started. The headlights cut through the fog. The city rolled by in slow motion, all steel and neon, as if holding its breath. He passed a gas station where two men argued in Spanish. A diner with one booth lit. A parking lot with a single streetlight flickering like a nervous eye. He didn't turn on the radio. The silence was louder. Every red light felt like a verdict. Every green light felt like temptation. He checked the rearview mirror again, and again. No one followed him. But the fear sat in the passenger seat anyway. He remembered something Cassie had said, her voice low, broken. He doesn't get mad like normal people. He doesn't shout. He watches. And then he disappears. And something bad happens. He should have called someone. A friend. The cops. But there was no one to call. Not really. The industry had rules, unspoken ones. Rules about loyalty, about silence, about what happened to people who broke the illusion. He wasn't supposed to come tonight. He was supposed to be quiet. But here he was. He pulled onto his street. His house stood in the distance, just past the bend, glowing faintly under the sodium lamps. It looked untouched, like a stage before the first actor steps out. But something felt wrong. Not broken, rearranged. He parked, sat still for a moment. The keys still in the ignition, the engine humming like a warning. His hand hovered over the door handle. Then the phone buzzed. "Unknown number." He answered. Silence. Then, "Don't come in angry." It was Combs's voice. Soft, measured, uninvited. Cudi's stomach twisted. "You're watching me," he said. A pause. "Then I just want to talk." Cudi hung up, stepped out of the car. The door shut behind him with the soft finality of a decision. The air was colder now. A thin wind pushed against his chest as he approached the front door. He didn't run. He didn't slow down. Just kept walking. Inside, everything looked the same. That was the most terrifying part. The furniture was untouched. The hallway light still hummed. But the dog, Charlie, didn't greet him. His heart dropped. "Charlie," he called out. A whimper, muffled. He followed the sound to the bathroom. The door was closed. His hand paused on the knob. For a second, he imagined something else behind it, someone else. He opened it. The dog burst out, frantic tail between his legs, tongue-dry eyes wild. He ran in frantic circles before collapsing near the couch, panting hard. Cudi knelt beside him, ran his hand down the trembling fur. "What did they do to you?" he whispered. But he already knew. That was when he noticed it. The security camera by the front door tilted. No longer aimed at the entrance, aimed toward the blank side wall. Nothing recorded, deliberate. He stood, walked the house, slowly, checking each room, each closet. Nothing missing, except certainty. He went back outside, sat on the front steps, pulled his phone from his pocket. He called. It rang once, then again. "Then you came home," Combs said. "I should have called the cops," Cudi replied. "You still can." "What do you want?" he asked. "I told you. To talk. To talk," Cudi repeated. "You broke into my house. You locked up my dog. You touched my shit. You don't get to talk. You think it was me. You're the only one who would." Silence. Then a chuckle. Low. Like he'd told a joke only he understood. "You're emotional," Combs said. "You're a ghost," Cudi whispered. "You haunt the people you break." "You're still standing," Combs replied. "That's more than most." The call ended. Cudi sat on the steps for a long time. The wind picked up. A siren howled in the distance. He realized then he wasn't waiting for the cops. He was waiting for the next message. Because the house might be his, but the rules, they belonged to someone else. And tonight was a reminder. Not everything that knocks has to break the door. Some things slip in quietly and leave fire behind. There was no storm when he saw him last. No lightning, no fire, no bloodied threats hanging in the air. Just a quiet morning in Brentwood. Sunlight slanting across the pavement, the scent of jasmine riding the breeze. It was ordinary in every way until it wasn't. Kid Cudi had stepped out of a coffee shop, cup in hand, hoodie drawn over his head. Charlie was with him, leashed calmer these days, but still flinching at passing motorcycles. That's when he saw them. Combs and his daughter walking ahead on the other side of the street. Combs in all black sunglasses, slow steps like he owned time. His daughter laughing, swinging her arms. Cudi froze. It had been years since they'd spoken, since the fire, since Soho House, since the courtroom. Part of him wanted to turn away, disappear into the crowd, but his feet betrayed him. They locked eyes across traffic. Combs nodded once, then crossed. Cudi didn't move. He didn't speak. Combs stopped a few feet away, told his daughter to wait. She pulled out her phone and sat on the curb. Then soft, almost cautious Combs said, "Hey." Cudi looked at him, really looked. There was no rage in his eyes now, no venom, just a strange stillness. "I heard about your tour," Combs said. "You're doing good." Cudi didn't answer. Combs looked down, then back up, his voice quieter. "I want to say, I'm sorry. For everything. For all that bullshit." He said it like it hurt to form the words, like each syllable had to be pulled out from somewhere deep. Cudi stared at him for a long moment. Then he said, "You're not." Combs blinked. "What, you're not sorry?" Cudi said. "You're just tired." The silence between them stretched. "I didn't burn your car," Combs muttered half-hearted. "You did worse," Cudi said. "You burned trust." Combs didn't deny it, just looked down at his shoes. "Maybe I did." Then he turned, walked back to his daughter. Cudi stood there, holding the coffee cup tighter than necessary. His heart wasn't racing. There was no tremble in his bones. Just emptiness. He watched them walk away, father and child disappearing into the brightness of morning, as if nothing had ever been dark. Later that day, he went back to the studio, not to record, just to sit. The walls smelled of foam and old cables. The chair still squeaked. The console lights blinked like distant galaxies. He closed his eyes. He remembered everything. The phone call, the whisper, "They're in your house," the bottle, the smoke. Cassie crying in silence, his hands trembling around a steering wheel. He remembered how no one ever really said what they meant, how the industry protected its own until it didn't, how fame had rooms with no windows. He remembered the look in Diddy's eyes that day in court. Not hate, not fear. Control. Always control. He stood, left the studio, drove to the edge of the city where the hills touched the sky, the spot he used to go when things got too loud. He parked, stepped out, sat on the hood of his rental, coffee in hand, and waited for the sun to go down. The sky turned from orange to ash. Charlie lay at his feet watching the trees shift. Cudi lit a cigarette. Inhaled. Exhaled. He thought about all the songs he hadn't written, all the words he'd swallowed, all the nights he'd stayed silent. And he thought maybe fire wasn't the worst thing that could happen. Because sometimes you had to lose everything familiar to finally breathe. In the distance, a plane crossed the sky, its lights blinking like slow Morse code. Below, the city shimmered. Somewhere out there, Combs was probably in another meeting, another show, another performance. But here on this hill under this darkening sky, Kid Cudi sat still. No camera, no court, no eyes watching. Just silence. And the ghost of a car that once burned, not to kill, but to mark the end of who he used to be.